Authors Press.
Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. And on the line with us today, we have Myung Chung. We'll be discussing her fantastic book, It's My Choice, available at authorspress.com. Or if you guys want to get the full experience of everything Sue has to offer, listen, do yourself a favor. Go directly to her personal website, author.sumyungchung.com. There, not only will you be able to find more information on Sue herself, but you'll also be able to find the book, It's My Choice, as well as be able to purchase it directly through this site. So one more time, that's author.sumyungchung.com. And I will say, Sue was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, Authors Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Authors Press. And you already know you can find them at authorspress.com. It's My Choice. Now listen, right off the bat, right from the title, you may have an idea of what the book entails. Because listen, how often do we go through life and really feel like a situation is out of our control? A situation is really just kind of thrust upon us, or we are thrust into a situation where we can't really gain our bearings. We can't control what is happening to us. I don't know about you, but I feel like that situation is happening right now with this COVID situation, right? And so often in life, I find myself in particular circumstances where I'm not really feeling like I'm in control. You know, and I think that, that is a very universal feeling, right? We can all relate to it. But I think the most important part of that is, guys, you always got to remember, life is filled with obstacles, right? I mean, COVID is an obstacle in and of itself, an obstacle that feels like it's never ending, but an obstacle in and of itself. And a lot of times, it's really based upon the perception in which we choose to take. Because when you have the correct perception, when you view things from a certain perspective, it can almost balance out the situation, right? And knowing that no matter what the circumstance you may find yourself in, good, bad, or otherwise, it's your choice, right? No pun intended, but it really is your choice on how you handle the situation, how you choose to manipulate the situation and really make it work to your benefit, right? And I absolutely love that. It is such a fantastic and such a profound message. And, you know, listen, I'm very glad that we have Sue here on the line because she's the expert on the matter, okay? She's written the book. She's done the research. She's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's bring her here on the line with us. Sue, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we are very happy to have you here. Now, Sue, before we jump into the book, let's hold off slightly. Tell our listening audience a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Hawaii. I lived on the mainland for many years. I traveled because my husband was in the Navy, and I worked as a medical technologist wherever we traveled. Then returned home upon his death, returned home and started working here. And this is where I've been for the past over 20 years. I'm back home and I'm here to stay.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Sue, I've never been to Hawaii, but I have a few friends that are from there, and that doesn't sound like a bad place to stay.
Oh, it's nice
for an extended period. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So fantastic. Now, let's jump right in. It's My Choice. Tell us about your book.
Well, it's a book actually of self-healing because of what has happened to me, and I had many questions. What really started me on the book was when I had an out-of-body experience during a coronary angiogram, because my husband had just passed, and then I thought I better go get a checkup, and it showed some changes, so they wanted me to go through that. But during that procedure, I I became unconscious. And
Wow.
during that time, I saw I was floating up in the air. You know how you hear about people that have those episodes? They may hear a voice or anything. Well, I didn't hear a voice or see a light. All I saw was scenery down below. And I snapped out of it because the nurse pulled me out of that dream. I thought it was a dream. And then afterwards, I thought, no, it wasn't a dream. Something happened to me. And that had a most profound effect on me. Because during that time, I experienced very profound peace. It's difficult to describe. And that sense of peace stayed with me for like several weeks after the episode. But I kept thinking about it. Then I started having, all of a sudden, what I thought was important to me were no longer important. So I started questioning myself. And I asked some pretty basic questions. So with these questions, I started to find answers, because some of the questions, the very first question I asked was, who am I? If a stranger walked up to you and just, outwardly asked, who are you? And that question stopped me cold in my stance, and I said, oh my goodness, I don't know. What do I say? Who am I? And with that question, it led me to many more questions. Who are you? What can you do? How are you going to do it? When? So all these open-ended questions that started coming. So that started my search to find answers. And in finding answers, I had to really think about what I was doing. All I could think of to answer that first question was my name. So I said, I'm Myung. Okay. So what? I'm a child of God. That's the only other thing I could think of. And when I told this to my friends, they laughed at me, but I didn't really care, because to me, it was an important question. And that told me I needed to find out who I really am. And that's what started me with questions, seeking answers. And this was a period of more than several years.
Wow.
And I wanted to, then I thought to myself, well, you better write these thoughts down, because when I started thinking of answers, the answers came pretty quickly, and I was writing it manually, and I thought, this is not going to work. Then I discovered word processing, so I used that. That was a major help in putting thoughts down. And one day I was talking to I was working for the Navy at that time, and the lab officer asked me, she said, we were talking about this and that, and she said, Sue, you should write a book on this. I said, well, maybe I will, because I've been jotting my thoughts down on paper. So perhaps I might. So that's what started me on writing a book, because I felt that in my finding answers to my questions, I need a mentor. I needed someone to help guide me along. And I thought, how come I can't find anyone? So that started me on that journey. It showed my weaknesses or my strengths. I didn't feel I had too many strengths, but I saw many weaknesses in my person as a character on this earth. So that's how it started.
Now, let's go into the title. It's my choice. Now, listen, I could assume after hearing the description and hearing your experience leading up to the culmination of the book, I could assume where that title comes from, and it's pretty clear in terms of the connection to the book. But why did you choose that particular title to be the representation for your book?
Well, when my son had come home from school, he was like in 5th grade or so. He came home and he said, he usually talked about his lesson for the day he learned, and he said, "Mom, did you know we have a free will? God gave us a free will." I go, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, we can do anything we want." And I heard that and I thought, I don't know if that sounds good. But that thought had an impact on me because I kept thinking about that free will. We can do anything we want. And that's what he said. And then, so when this episode happened, I thought about that. And I thought, okay, you have a free will. So what do you do? What do you do every day? Or he says, well, I do this and that and that. And then I said, those are choices. Free will allows you to choose as you wish. Nobody can tell you. They can tell you not to, but if you really want to and you really want to do it, you will. So the choice is yours. And what that leads to is responsibility. So when you make choices, remember, you are responsible for what you think or do. And what you do leads to consequences. So the thing is, you have to be wise in choosing. Don't make bad choices because you can have lousy consequences.
Sue, let's go into inspiration. Now, we know really what sparked the inspiration for this particular narrative. And we know that, again, I think you said it was coworkers of yours that really kind of, sparked this motivation, or at least put that idea in your mind. Now, listen, you come from a medical background. So what inspired you to switch gears and embark upon a creative background and become a writer?
It's interesting. I have to chuckle at myself because when I was a freshman in college, I had, you have to take English comp. And the thing that I remember most was the instructor would say, this is a good topic, but she told me, I don't really understand what you're trying to say. And I'm thinking, wow, what am I doing with my words? I'm jumbling it around and people don't understand. So I always had this self-image of not being a good writer. But when I went for my master's, I wrote a research paper, and the professor said, he didn't quite understand all the time what I was trying to say. And I said, so my comment was, I don't write very well. I don't have the talent for writing. And he quickly rebutted and said, Sue, it doesn't take talent, it's skill. So that's one revelation I had at that time, that I thought I wasn't a good writer and believed it. And this professor saying, it's not talent, it's skill. That means you are responsible for it. So I thought, wow, that's quite a revelation. I was defeating myself before I started. And so that's how I came to write more and more. And then I discovered, when you begin writing, you do improve, like practice makes perfect.
Look at that. Guys, again, what is so profound about all of this, as I started off by saying in the introduction, perception is everything. And this is something that I constantly have to remind myself of, but it is words that I have lived a good chunk of my life by. But perception was something that I really had to work on and I had to change. And I am a true believer in this, and I can attest to the complete 180 that my life has taken since that. Sue, this is fantastic. Listen, next question that I'd love to go into, and I have to just hurry up and ask this question because my listening audience is going to get very upset with me if I don't. We'd love to hear this. This is a self-help narrative. You've discussed that, of course. Now, I'm sure the book is littered with tips that we can take and we can really, plant those seeds and allow it to manifest and grow. But since we have you here on the line, I'd love to pick your brain and, listen, just a few tips because we don't want to give too much away. And guys, you know what you got to do. If you want to get all the tips that Sue Myung has, there's no way around it. You got to go to Authors Press or her personal website, author.SueMyungChung.com, and pick up your copy of It's My Choice. That's the only way to get all of the tips. But since we have you here, I'd love to get a little bit of a teaser, Sue. Any tips that you can offer our listening audience?
Well, first of all, you have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, if you think badly of yourself, what kind of perception would you have of another?
Absolutely.
Would it be good or bad? Possibly bad. You'll think the worst thing first before you think good. When you love yourself, you're at ease. You bring peace to your soul, peace and harmony. And you aim for that. And once you get hold of that, you don't want to let it go. And you practice that in how you live. I live my life simply. I like it that way. I don't like a whole lot of clutter. Maybe my house is cluttered, but, my life is simple. And that's how I believe in living. When you learn to love yourself, you learn to have affection for another. And you don't think of negative things. You always be a positive person. Lots of times you hear people. What I didn't like growing up was when someone spoke badly of somebody else. That's not very good. But like here in Hawaii, if you talk bad about somebody, we used to say, "Oh, that's talking sick." And I used to wonder, why do people do that? They act like they're friends. But when that friend leaves, they say a negative thing about that person and go, why do people do that? So that was another thing I needed to find out, that you can't think like that. You always look at things in a positive way. Because when you do that, you bring that same kind of energy to whoever or whomever or wherever you are. So you kind of inject that kind of energy into the situation that you're in. You don't think bad. And, of course, the thing I think of is, Trump's gone, so, that's nice. So, yeah, that's how it works, because all of life, when you read anything, and even if you don't read a science book, there's energy, there's spirituality, that's all energy. And know that you're a child of God, you are loved. Why shouldn't he love you? He's my guide. Work on developing or acquiring or reacquiring the godness in you. And that godness comes out in how you speak, how you behave, and how you live. And you cannot help but rub off on another person.
Absolutely. Listen, Sue, you are planting seeds, okay? You're starting forests with the gems that you're giving. Listen, love yourself. Learn to love yourself. That is, again, it's another one of those things where on the surface, we've all heard it, right? This is nothing new.
Yeah.
But how often do we actually practice these words, right? And we know, guys, listen, you can't love somebody else until you truly learn to love yourself. How can you give love to someone else that you don't even have for yourself? How do you cherish and embody?
That's right.
That's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous words. So listen, last question that I have, and it's really more so a curiosity for myself. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon this journey?
Well, when I went on this journey, I thought, I wish I had somebody, some kind of mentor. And I thought, well, why can't you do it yourself? And so when I started to discover these things and I write it down, and incidentally, when I started writing things down and started thinking about answers, I couldn't write it fast enough or type fast enough. And I would be during this episode, I would just be focused on these things and answers and, just writing it down. And so I had pieces of paper here and there, and finally decided, okay, I think I better collate all these thoughts and see if I can make it more cohesive. And that's why I wrote the book. And I said, well, why are you writing the book? Because I want to share it with other people. If I can do it, so can anyone else. This is why I call it a self-healing, healing yourself. And it makes you a better, happier person. So now I don't get uptight about anything. I can get annoyed and let you know about it. But the thing is, I don't hold anything. When you change yourself within, you don't hang on to negativity. You let that go. I think that was my biggest problem, was to let things go. When you feel badly and say if you had an argument or anything, you hang on to it. You don't let it go. So one of the key of success is to let it go. Learn to let it go. You don't hang on to it. It's not good. Don't carry God with you. I would say that to my kids.
There you have it. Guys, listen, you know what you got to do. If Authors Press or even authorsuemyungchung.com is not opened on your web browser right now, I don't know what you're doing. Okay? Go pick up your copy of It's My Choice by Myung Chung. You surely will not be disappointed. Listen, there's a lot of uncertainty in the air right now. There's a lot of adversity that we are all facing as a human family across the board. What better time to pick up and acquire this amazing self-help narrative than right now? Let's learn from this moment. Let's learn from Sue, and let's grow and let's advance. Sue, this has been an absolute honor. Such a wonderful, wonderful education. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.